In this video, I shall be looking at the impacts of national and international migration on the growth and character of Leeds. I'll start out by looking at the character of Leeds and then look at examples of national and international migration before considering the impact of migration on the growth and character of the city. Leeds is a modern cosmopolitan city, but as with many of the big cities of Yorkshire, it has many striking Victorian era buildings around the city centre, often constructed in granite and stone. To the south of the city are substantial clay deposits, so red brick was the predominant building material for the extensive 19th century housing. The city is full of reminders of its industrial past. The industries that developed in the Industrial Revolution included making machinery for spinning, machine tools, steam engines and gears, as well as industries based on textiles, chemicals, leather and pottery. Leeds is synonymous with the development of the textile industry, which brought prosperity and many jobs. The city is located on a navigable river and developed a web of transport networks by road, rail and canal, which, whilst creating internal barriers, undoubtedly encouraged trade with the rest of the world. Leeds has a strong sporting heritage. Leeds has a professional football team, 2 rugby league teams, is home to a rugby union club and is the headquarters of Yorkshire Cricket. International Test cricket is regularly played at Headingley, and Elland Road has staged international football matches. The culture of Yorkshire has been influenced by those who came to control the region, including the Celts, Romans, Angles, Vikings and Normans. Yorkshire people are said to have a strong sense of regional identity and have been viewed to identify more strongly with their county than their country. Many of the people in Leeds have a distinctive accent. Yorkshire dialect is noticeable, which has roots in Old English and is influenced by Old Norse. Yorkshire people are often stereotyped as friendly but stubborn and argumentative. Throughout the history of the area, the region has seen a number of rebellions against non-Yorkshire or non-northern rulers. The people are also described as being very careful with money. It is said that centuries of exploitation by mill owners, textile bosses and other employers has meant workers had to learn to budget carefully to get by. The economy of Leeds is one of the most diverse economies of all of the UK's main employment centres. Leeds has a history of world-changing ideas. The city's innovations have had positive impacts across the world. The fact that the city is open to embracing new ideas and hasn't been dependent upon one sole industry has helped Leeds cope with the change. In the past, the Industrial Revolution had resulted in the radical growth of Leeds, whose population had risen to over 150,000 by 1840. People were attracted into the city for work from Yorkshire and further afield in the UK. By the mid-19th century, 2 out of every 5 workers in Leeds worked in the textile industry. John Marshall, who was born in Leeds, built his first 2 mills in Holbeck in 1791 and 1795, and in between those 2 developments, in 1792, Benjamin Gott, born on the outskirts of Leeds, built his first woolen mill on a field called Bean Ings on the west side of the city. People were attracted to the city by the prospect of regular work and income. The second half of the 19th century saw Leeds' textile focus centring on finer materials and more specialist tastes. The importance of clothing production grew. Rather than simply generating the material, machines were developed to allow tailored cloth to be produced. By 1911, 30,000 people were employed in clothing production in Leeds. John Barron, who was born in London, was the first clothier to open a wholesale clothing factory in Leeds in 1856, triggering the ready-to-wear tailoring trade and soon employing 3,000 workers using 2,000 sewing machines. By 1881, he had 20 factories, while competitor William Blackburn, born in Leeds, opened his first factory in 1890, by which time 15,000 people in Leeds were producing 5 million garments a year, which were mainly suits and coats for men and boys. Mass manufacturing of clothes was a Leeds revolution, with Blackburn's and another business called Hepworth's opening retail shops to trade their own manufactured goods. Hepworth's was founded in 1864 by Joseph Hepworth when he moved from Huddersfield to the textile mecca of Leeds. His son, Norris Hepworth, soon joined the business and by 1891 they had a chain of 107 shops and employed over 2,000 people, mainly females and mainly at their Providence Works on Claypit Lane. Hepworth's business is still surviving today as the retail chain now known as Next. Montague Burton is a name stitched into the fabric of the tailoring story of Leeds. He arrived in Britain from Lithuania in 1900 and started his clothing empire in Chesterfield 3 years later. By 1913 he had 5 tailor shops, which expanded to 595 shops by the outbreak of World War II. He developed a huge clothing factory in the Bermontoft district of Leeds, which would eventually employ 10,000 people, making 30,000 suits a week, generally believed to be the largest clothing factory in the world, and Burton by then was the biggest employer in Leeds. Burton was characterised after the war by the introduction of the D-Mob suit, a set of clothes issued to demobilised servicemen upon returning to everyday society. The suit comprised of a jacket, trousers, waistcoat, shirt and underwear, and is classed as the original of the phrase the full Monty. Marks & Spencer's was formed in 1884 when Michael Marks, a Polish refugee, opened a market stall in Leeds with the slogan, "Don't ask the price, it's a penny." In 1894, Marks went into partnership with Thomas Spencer, a former cashier from the wholesale company Dewhurst. In 1904, Marks & Spencer's opened their first shop in a covered arcade in Leeds. Of course, Marks & Spencer's is now a world-renowned brand and major employer. Both Montague Burton and Michael Marks were Jewish, and there are strong links to the faith in the city. A Jewish community was founded around 1823, and the first synagogue building for the parent congregation was erected in 1860, when there were 100 Jewish families. With the growth in the local prosperity, the Jewish population increased. Towards the close of the 19th century, many Russian and Polish immigrants settled in Leeds and were absorbed largely in the tailoring industry, to which they gave great impetus. Montague Burton was one of the many Jews who contributed largely to its development. Jewish tailors and seamstresses in the sweatshops of London, Leeds and Manchester created cheap and good quality clothing. This meant that many working class British people could afford new clothes for the first time in their lives. In 1970, the Jewish community was estimated at 18,000 out of a population of approximately 508,000. This was the third largest community after London and Manchester, and contained the highest proportion of Jews to the general population in Great Britain. Hyman Morris in 1941 and J.S. Walsh in 1966 were both Jewish Lord Mayors of the city. There was a sharp rise in immigration from Ireland from the early 1800s. In Leeds, these pioneers settled close to the city centre and then gradually moved eastwards to dominate an area around Richmond Hill known as the Bank. This early community was greatly boosted in numbers in the late 1840s and throughout the 1850s, with the arrival of emigrants fleeing the horrors of famine in Ireland. The Irish were drawn to Leeds by the large number of job opportunities in the textile industry and other manufacturing. Several churches provided places of worship for the thriving Irish community developing in Leeds. St Patrick's in Bermontoft was constructed around 1831, whilst Mount St Mary's on Richmond Hill was built around 1857. From the late 1940s onwards, more and more Irish arrived into Leeds and a vibrant community thrived. These Irish differed from those arriving in the previous century in that they were not fleeing desperate circumstances, but were making the decision to emigrate. They were also better educated and brought a wide range of skills with them, which benefited the local economy. Many of these emigrants were raised on farms and were well used to physical labour, so they brought to the local labour market a healthy mix of brain and brawn. Between 1955 and 1963, Britain experienced a rush of West Indian immigration, peaking in 1962 with 66,300 arrivals. Caribbean communities quickly developed in England's larger industrial centres such as London, Manchester, Birmingham and Leeds. The Caribbean community has played a pivotal role in shaping British culture, with particular influence in music and the arts. Leeds' large Caribbean population has had significant impact and has created a strong community spirit. The Leeds West Indian Carnival has taken place every year since August 1967 and it was the first formally organised authentic Caribbean carnival in Europe. In 2016, over 160,000 people flocked to the city to take in the unrivalled atmosphere, great music, food, and parade of floats and hundreds of stunning costumes from across the UK. The yearly procession has raised the profile of the black community who mainly lived in the Chapeltown area of Leeds. The peaceful development of the carnival and its strong connections with the black communities in northern England help explain the Caribbean community's acceptance into mainstream Leeds. Carnival has helped deliver the Caribbean community from the city's margins to centre stage. In the 1940s and 1950s, Polish, Ukrainian and Hungarian refugees from the Soviet bloc arrived in the city. Leeds' Polish community began with political exiles, people displaced during World War II and unable to return home. Other Poles came during the communist era, escaping from political and economic problems at home. Most Poles now living in Leeds came seeking better paid work after Poland joined the European Union in 2004. Recent times have seen high numbers of EU nationals migrate to the city, particularly from Poland and Romania. As well as their economic impact, migrants contribute to the cultural life of the city in music, art, literature and food. Beginning in the late 1950s and continuing on a large scale until the 1970s, thousands of families from the new Commonwealth countries such as Pakistan, India and Bangladesh arrived in the UK in search of work and an improved standard of living. Some came to escape civil war, to seek better economic opportunities and to join family members already settled here. Their arrival has influenced business, sport, culture, the arts and entertainment. Migration from this region has enriched the UK's booming food culture. The wealth of tastes and flavours available in our kitchens and supermarkets is a direct result of the migrants' influence and desire to share recipes and culture. Let's recap. We have found that many of the people in Leeds have a distinctive accent. Yorkshire people are often stereotyped as friendly but stubborn and argumentative. Yorkshire people are described as being very careful with money. These characteristics have been reinforced and developed over time as migrants have arrived. The Industrial Revolution resulted in the radical growth of Leeds. People were attracted into the city for work from other parts of Yorkshire and further afield in the UK. Mills were built by rich people in Leeds such as Benjamin Gott and John Barron, who were then joined by other businessmen from other parts of the UK such as Huddersfield and London. The new industries attracted thousands of people to move to the city. The Leeds building styles of the past were guided by demand for quick-built and affordable housing. Thousands of red brick terraced houses were built to offer homes to the migrant workers, and many of them still exist. They are a recognisable feature of the city. Most migration is still between Leeds and the rest of Yorkshire. Between 2009 and 2015, 38% of inward migration to Leeds was from Yorkshire and the Humber, and 39% of outward migration was to Yorkshire and the Humber. In the distant past, the culture of Yorkshire has been influenced by those who came to control the region, including the Celts, Romans, Angles, Vikings and Normans. In more recent times, Montague Burton and Michael Marks are examples of international migrants that moved to Leeds and assisted in its growth in the clothing industry. Leeds has a history of innovation and enhancing new ideas. It is fortunate to have a wide range of industries. There have been large contributions from Jewish, Irish, West Indian, Eastern European and South Asian migrants to the growth and character of Leeds. It is now a multicultural city with many different international influences on display across the city. International links continue to develop and migrants continue to be drawn to work and study in Leeds.